The Euro Yard is back, and today we look at the participation history of every country that has taken part in the Eurovision Song Contest. As most of you know, the first contest took place in 1956 and just 7 countries entered. In fact, it was the only one where every participating nation got 2 entries, and some singers performed both songs. Fast forward to 2024, and over 50 countries have taken part at Eurovision over the last nearly 7 decades. Some of them don't even exist anymore. Before we walk you through the timelines for each country, let's look at a chart showing the participation rate by year. As we mentioned, the first contest only had 7 countries, by far the smallest. The following year, 1957, it had 10, and it has never gone into single digits since. However, while the contest did grow, the participation numbers held in the teens for over 20 years after that. Of course, it dipped to 12 in 1970 due to boycotts, but it bounced back, and by 1978, Eurovision had 20 countries for the first time. Growth would remain slow from there, and the contest finally hit 25 by 1993. Now, keep in mind, these are the official numbers. In 1993, there was the pre-qualification for Mill Street entry round of the contest, and the few non-qualifiers are not counted in the official total, but we show them as participants on our timelines, which you will shortly see. Nevertheless, it was the first time at least 25 countries participated. The Soviet Union had broken up, and many newly independent countries wanted in, so places had to be found. For the next decade, with 1 or 2 exceptions, there was a relegation system in place to keep the numbers stable and rotate in previous non-participating countries. It was not until 2004 that the semi-final system was introduced, and when it was, the numbers exploded. 36 countries participated in the 2004 contest, and through the present, that number has remained consistent in the 30s and 40s. 2007 was the first time that at least 40 countries participated. The most that ever have is 43, which happened 3 times: 2008, 2011, and most recently in 2018. Now let's look at the timelines for each country, starting with Albania through Bosnia and Herzegovina. Belgium near the bottom is one of the original 7 countries from 1956, and you can see the evidence of the relegation system in their timeline, as well as Austria's above. Most of these countries, Albania, Andorra, Armenia, Australia, Azerbaijan, and Belarus, joined after 2000. Not many wins either on this screen, as Austria has won twice, Azerbaijan and Belgium once, and nobody else has at all. Several of these countries, Andorra, Belarus, and Bosnia and Herzegovina, no longer actively participate. Next, it's Bulgaria through Georgia, and there were a few long-term Eurovision members here, namely Denmark, Finland, and France. The latter is one of the original 7, and they've won 5 times, but not since the 1970s. Finland, as you can see, got relegated a lot in the 1990s and 2000s. Denmark took over a decade off from the contest, but has been a regular fixture since. Cyprus made their debut in the early 1980s, and the rest were either in the 1990s or 2000s. Of the countries shown here, the only one that is not still an active participant is Bulgaria, who last showed up in 2022. Looking at Germany through Lithuania, the top country, Germany, is one of the original 7 and has only missed 1 Eurovision Song Contest out of the 69 which have occurred. That was in 1996 because the EBU decided to do an untelevised semifinal that year. Germany did not qualify, and the rest is history. For the record, we do not count that 1996 semifinal as participation because it was unaired. The 1993 pre-qualification is, however, because it was aired. The most consequential country on this page is probably Ireland, who have won Eurovision 7 times since their 1965 debut. Italy was an original 7 country and participated for the most part into the 1990s, but took off a long stretch and missed the entire 2000s decade before returning in 2011. Israel and Greece joined the contest in the 1970s, Iceland signed up in the 1980s, Lithuania and Hungary joined in the 1990s, and Latvia made their debut in 2000. The only country here that no longer participates is Hungary, which last appeared prior to COVID in 2019. Luxembourg through Norway is next. You may notice that large gap for Luxembourg, over 30 years to be exact. They were Eurovision stalwarts up until 1993, but then they got relegated and they just never returned. That is to say, until 2024. The Netherlands is the only other original 7 country here, and most of their wins were in 1975 or before. Norway has been in most since joining in 1960, but it took this long-suffering participant quite a while to taste victory. Malta made their debut in 1971, fairly early in the scheme of things, but took off a huge gap before returning in the 1990s. Moldova and Montenegro entered in the 2000s, while North Macedonia entered as the former Yugoslavian Republic of Macedonia in 1998. Monaco was at most of the early Eurovisions but quit before the 1980s, returning briefly from 2004 to 2006 and have not come back since. The real oddity here is Morocco, which is unique in that they only sent one song in 1980 and never participated again. Looking now at Poland through Spain, none of the countries shown here were original participants, and in fact, the earliest was Spain in 1961. They have not missed a single one since. Portugal was the only other one to join in the 1960s, and they've missed a handful, but otherwise they've been annual entrants. All of the rest entered in 1993 or later, which makes sense because a lot of them were either Yugoslav countries or Eastern Bloc satellites. A note here on the Serbian line. We count Serbia and Montenegro's brief existence under Serbia rather than split it into its own timeline, which is why it's colored differently. However, from 2007 on, Serbia and Montenegro have been independent from one another. Slovakia has had the fewest entries and hasn't participated since 2012. Russia and Romania are also countries which were not at the most recent contest in 2024. Finally, we have the last handful of countries, Sweden through Yugoslavia. Sweden isn't an original member, but pretty close to it, and they, like Ireland, have won the contest 7 times. Switzerland has bookended the Eurovision experience at present. They were the first winner, and as of 2024 are the most recent winner. The United Kingdom is another highly consequential country here. They joined in year 2, 1957, and have only missed 2 contests total. The UK has won 5 times and finished in second place a staggering 16 times. Turkey participated almost every year between 1975 and 2012, winning once before the political winds of the country changed, and they dropped out for good. Yugoslavia participated most years in which it existed, from 1961 to 1992. They managed to win a contest in 1989, just a few years before the country dissolved. Finally, Ukraine has only been around in Eurovision for 20 years, but their impact has been huge. They've won 3 times, finished in the top 5 9 times, and they gave us Verka Serduchka in the process. For more Eurovision history lessons and content, visit our website at theeuroyard.com and hit that subscribe button. Seriously, do it now. It's right there.